Hey everyone! We are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content and it is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button right now as we proceed. Spring training is supposed to be about hope, optimism, and fresh beginnings. It's supposed to be about players showing up in the best shape of their lives, ready to prove they deserve a spot on the roster. It's supposed to be about building chemistry, working out the kinks, and getting everyone on the same page before the regular season begins. Well, somebody forgot to tell the Toronto Blue Jays that, because day one of spring training just turned into an absolute nightmare. The injury reports that dropped yesterday are so catastrophic, so devastating, so completely soul-crushing that Blue Jays fans are probably still trying to process what just happened to their team. Buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you is going to fundamentally change how you view this entire season. Let's start with the headliner, the absolute gut punch that has Blue Jays Nation reeling right now. Anthony Santander, the big off-season acquisition who was supposed to replace the offensive production lost when Bo Bichette's bat disappeared, the guy who was supposed to anchor the middle of the lineup and provide that power threat the Blue Jays desperately needed, is going to be out for 5 to 6 months. Let me say that again so it really sinks in. 5 to 6 months. That means he's not playing on opening day. That means he's missing April, May, and most of June. That means if everything goes perfectly with his recovery, he might be back sometime in July, and even then, who knows if he'll actually be up to game speed or just trying to find his rhythm while the playoff race heats up. This is an absolute disaster for multiple reasons, and we need to break down just how bad this situation really is. First, let's talk about the contract. The Blue Jays signed Santander to an $11 million deal for this season after paying him $9 million last year. And yes, I know those numbers don't sound crazy in today's baseball economy, but here's what everyone keeps forgetting. There are deferrals built into this contract. $5 million in deferrals that extend all the way from 2035 to 2046. So the Blue Jays are going to be paying for Anthony Santander until 2046, and what have they gotten in return? Absolutely nothing. Zero production. Zero value. Just injury after injury after injury. Last year was supposed to be a bit of a mulligan. Okay, he dealt with injuries. It happens. Let's get him healthy for this season and see what he can really do. Well, now this season is basically a write-off too. And here's where it gets even worse from a business perspective. Santander has an opt-out clause for 2028 and 2029. Now, if you're Santander and you just missed most of 2 consecutive seasons with injuries, are you opting out of guaranteed money? Absolutely not. You're staying right where you are, collecting your checks, and hoping you can eventually get healthy enough to rebuild your value. But for the Blue Jays, that means they're stuck paying a guy who's been unable to stay on the field and contribute when it matters most. This contract is looking like a complete bust right now. It's harsh to say, but it's the truth. The Blue Jays needed offensive firepower. They needed someone to step up and replace the production they lost. And instead, they've got a guy who's going to be sitting in the training room while Nathan Lukes gets thrust into a starting role he was never supposed to have. Now don't get me wrong, I like Nathan Lukes. He had a solid regular season last year. He brings grit and competitive at-bats. But is he supposed to be your everyday left fielder on a team with World Series aspirations? Absolutely not. He's a fourth outfielder, a platoon guy, someone who gives you quality depth. But now he's being asked to carry a much bigger load because the Blue Jays have no other choice. And this brings up the massive question that's going to hang over this entire season. Who's going to step up? Where's the offense going to come from? The Blue Jays lost Bo Bichette's production. They were counting on Santander to fill that void. Now they need someone else to emerge, and Ross Atkins is already hinting at where he's looking. He mentioned RJ Schreck as a player he's excited to see this spring training. Now, if that name doesn't immediately ring bells, you're not alone. But here's what you need to know about Schreck. He was the Blue Jays minor league position player of the year. He absolutely tore through 4 different levels of the minor league system last year, playing in rookie ball, single A, double A, and triple A. His combined numbers produced an 854 OPS with a .249 batting average. This kid has legitimate talent. He's got that electric quality that makes scouts excited. He leapfrogged through the system just like Trey Savage did on the pitching side. And now, because of Santander's injury, Shrek might get an opportunity he wasn't necessarily supposed to get this early in his development. Ross Atkins also mentioned Joey Loperfido as another internal option. The Blue Jays need anyone, to step up and provide offensive value because right now, they're staring down a massive hole in their lineup that nobody saw coming. But wait, it gets worse. Because Anthony Santander isn't the only injury the Blue Jays are dealing with. Shane Bieber, the guy who was supposed to solidify the rotation behind Dylan Cease, the former Cy Young Award winner who was brought in to be an ace-level pitcher, is planning to start the season on the injured list. He's dealing with right forearm fatigue, which is basically the scariest phrase you can hear when discussing a pitcher who's coming off Tommy John surgery. Forearm issues don't just go away. They linger. They recur. They turn into bigger problems if you're not extremely careful. Now, to be fair, the Blue Jays are being cautious here, which is the right approach. John Schneider says Bieber is still feeling good and playing catch. Reports indicate he's throwing from 90 feet, which is first base to second base distance, so he's making progress. But his ramp-up is going to be delayed past opening day. That means the Blue Jays are starting the season without one of their top starting pitchers, and there's no clear timeline for when he's going to be ready to actually contribute. So let's update the rotation depth chart based on these injuries. Dylan Cease is still your ace. Kevin Gausman is your number 2. UCI Kikuchi slots in as your 3. And now, because Shane Bieber is out, Jose Berrios is suddenly back in the rotation whether Blue Jays fans like it or not. And oh boy, do we need to talk about Jose Berrios for a second, because there's been some serious drama surrounding him and how last season ended. For those who maybe weren't paying close attention, Berrios essentially quit on the team during the postseason and World Series run. He didn't stay with the squad. It rubbed people the wrong way. There was legitimate tension in the clubhouse. John Schneider had to address it publicly, saying that both sides could have handled things differently and that they've talked through it and moved forward. But has it really been resolved? Can you just sweep that kind of thing under the rug and pretend it never happened? Berrios is going to have to prove that he's committed, focused, and ready to be a professional this season. The Blue Jays need him to eat innings. They need him to give them 160 to 170 innings and 30-plus starts. That's the baseline expectation now that Bieber is unavailable. And speaking of pitching depth being absolutely demolished, let's talk about Bowden Francis. Remember him? The guy who had one of the best stretches in Blue Jays franchise history down the stretch in 2024? The guy who looked like he might develop into a legitimate rotation piece? Well, he's going to miss all of 2026 with UCL reconstruction surgery. That's Tommy John surgery, folks. He's done for the entire year. Any hopes of Bowden Francis contributing this season just evaporated. He missed most of 2025 with injuries and underperformance. Now he's missing all of 2026. The road back for him is going to be long and uncertain. So let's recap the pitching situation because it's genuinely alarming. Shane Bieber is out indefinitely with forearm issues. Bowden Francis is done for the year. The Blue Jays are suddenly relying on Jose Berrios despite clubhouse drama. And their depth has been completely eviscerated before a single regular season game has been played. This is not how you draw it up. This is not the plan Ross Atkins had when he constructed this roster during the offseason. But wait, there's more. Because we're not done with injury updates yet. George Springer, the veteran outfielder who's supposed to provide leadership and production when healthy, has been dealing with knee soreness, oblique issues, and right wrist discomfort that impacted his throwing ability as last season progressed. Now, the good news is that the off-season rest has helped him recover according to John Schneider, and he's going to be available to play whenever needed. But here's the thing about George Springer at this stage of his career. He's up there in age. His body has taken a beating over the years. He needs to stay healthy to be productive. When he's healthy, he's a valuable contributor. When he's not, you get those up and down inconsistent seasons where he's constantly trying to get back on the field and up to speed before getting hurt again. The Blue Jays absolutely need a healthy George Springer this season. They cannot afford for him to miss significant time, especially now that Santander is going to be out for months. Every at-bat matters. Every game matters. And if Springer goes down, the outfield depth gets tested even further. Now, not all the injury news is completely catastrophic. There are actually a couple of positive updates buried in all this doom and gloom. Ricky Tiedemann, the highly touted left-handed pitching prospect, is going to be stretched out to handle multiple innings this spring training. He's coming off Tommy John surgery, so the Blue Jays are going to be cautious with his workload and evaluate him month to month. But there's apparently a pathway for him to join the big league bullpen late in the season. And folks, if that happens, that could be legitimately exciting. This kid throws upper 90s when healthy. He's got wipeout stuff. Imagine him coming out of the bullpen in high-leverage situations during a playoff race, throwing absolute gas and getting critical outs. That's the kind of weapon that could make a real difference in September and October. The other semi-positive update involves Yimi Garcia, the reliever who's had some injury concerns. Following surgery to clean up scar tissue in his right elbow last September, Garcia has reportedly been feeling good and throwing for numerous weeks now. The Blue Jays are obviously going to be cautious with his build-up, but they're hoping he'll be ready for opening day. If Garcia can stay healthy and pitch to his capabilities, he'd be a valuable setup man in a bullpen that needs reliable arms. Speaking of the bullpen, John Schneider addressed Jeff Hoffman's role as the closer. And this is interesting because Schneider took a very flexible approach. He said that while Hoffman is expected to get the majority of closing opportunities, anyone can really close games for this team. That means guys like Luis Varland and Tyler Rogers could get save chances depending on matchups and situations. I actually like this approach. It keeps everyone sharp. It prevents guys from getting too comfortable. And if Hoffman struggles, there are legitimate backup options rather than just hoping he figures it out. So where does all of this leave the Toronto Blue Jays as they begin spring training? Well, let's be honest. This is not the start anyone envisioned. The depth is being tested before games even count. Key players are injured or dealing with serious health concerns. The rotation has massive question marks. The offense has a gaping hole where Anthony Santander was supposed to be. And the American League East is absolutely loaded with talent. The Yankees have Garrett Cole healthy. The Orioles just added Chris Bassett to an already deep rotation. The Rays are always competitive. This division is a gauntlet, and the Blue Jays are limping into it rather than charging in with confidence. But here's the thing about baseball. It's a long season. 162 games is a marathon, not a sprint. Teams deal with adversity. Unexpected heroes emerge. Young players seize opportunities and turn into stars. The Blue Jays have talent on this roster. They have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., one of the best hitters in baseball. They have Bo Bichette when healthy. They have Dylan Cease anchoring the rotation. They have pieces that can compete if everything clicks. The question is whether they can survive this early adversity and stay close enough in the division race until reinforcements arrive. Can RJ Schreck or Joey Loperfido step up and provide offensive production? Can Jose Berrios put the drama behind him and pitch like a reliable veteran? Can Shane Bieber get healthy and contribute down the stretch? Can Ricky Tiedemann become that late-season bullpen weapon they desperately need? These are the questions that are going to define the Blue Jays season. And folks, we're going to be here covering every single development, every transaction, every roster move as this team tries to navigate through what's already shaping up to be a challenging year. Make sure you smash that like button if you're still believing in this team despite all the injury chaos. Drop a comment below telling me who you think is going to step up and be the unexpected hero for the Blue Jays this season. And absolutely hit that subscribe button because spring training is just getting started, and you know there's going to be more news, more drama, and more storylines to follow. This is going to be one wild ride, and we're covering every minute of it. Let's go Blue Jays.